The story we are told about ancient Scotland, and the Picts in particular, is one of absence. Absent writing, absent sophistication, and absent civilization. This story has been repeated so often that it is hardened into fact. Yet, when examined carefully, it begins to unravel. Not because of romantic nationalism or wishful myth-making, but because the narrative itself does not make sense. Empires do not expend vast resources to conquer emptiness. The Roman Empire, one of the most strategically calculated powers in human history, did not march legions north out of curiosity or boredom. They moved towards value, towards threat, towards something that mattered. Ancient Scotland was not a barren fringe of the known world. It was fertile, resource-rich, strategically powerful, and culturally coherent. The Picts were not primitive barbarians scratching at the edge of civilization. They were an advanced people whose intelligence was expressed through forms that modern academia is only now beginning to recognize. The first deception lies in the definition of advanced. Modern historians often equate advancement with written language, visible stone cities, and surviving bureaucratic records. But these are not universal markers of intelligence. They are markers of what survived conquest, erosion, and deliberate dismantling. Increasingly, archaeology is revealing what indigenous memory has always known. Across Scotland, evidence is emerging of large settlements, engineered landscapes, and complex urban planning long predating Roman contact. Massive stone structures, layered foundations, buried causeways, fortified centres, ceremonial complexes and sophisticated agricultural systems are being uncovered beneath later constructions, peat layers, forests, and farmland. What was once assumed to be small tribal villages is now understood to be something far more substantial. This pattern is not unique. Egypt, Central and South America, and the ancient Near East are all experiencing the same revelation. Entire cities, vast stone complexes, and advanced infrastructures are only now being uncovered, often buried deliberately or lost beneath millennia of sediment. The absence was never real, it was simply hidden. Scotland is no different. The Picts did not lack cities, they lacked preservation under imperial narratives. Their centres of power were not always built as permanent above-ground monuments meant to proclaim dominance. Many were integrated into the land itself, designed for longevity, concealment, and energetic function rather than visual spectacle. Timber, stone, earthworks, subterranean chambers, vitrified forts, and complex layering created structures that time could reclaim more easily, especially after systematic destruction. Erasure is not evidence of non-existence. Contrary to the claim that these peoples were illiterate or incapable of record-keeping, there was writing in the ancient Celtic world. Ogham or Ogham, attributed in mythic memory to Ogma, the god of language, eloquence, and knowledge, functioned as both script and symbolic system. It recorded names, lineages, land boundaries, and initiatory knowledge. What remains today is fragmentary, not because it was insignificant, but because it was actively marginalized, outlawed, or allowed to vanish during Christianization. Writing did exist. It simply did not survive on parchment. And writing was never the sole method of storage. Scotland in antiquity was extraordinarily fertile. Dense forest, rich soils, abundant rivers, mineral wealth, timber, game, and access to maritime trade routes made it a land of enormous value. tin, iron, gold, silver, copper, hides, timber, and agricultural surplus were all present. Long before Roman contact, Scotland was already woven into the vast trade networks that stretched across Europe and the Mediterranean world. A land without wealth does not attract repeated military campaigns. Yet Rome attempted invasion again and again, and ultimately failed to fully subdue the northern territories. Hadrian's Wall itself is not evidence of Roman dominance, but of Roman limitation. It marks the edge of control, not the edge of civilization. Beyond that wall lived a people Rome could not assimilate. The Picts' supposed lack of records has been used to dismiss their complexity, but this rests on a flawed premise, that knowledge must be stored in books and cities must resemble Rome to be real. The Picts used stone, symbol, body, land, architecture, lineage, and crafted objects. Their symbol stones are not decoration, they are data. The body itself may have functioned as another medium through which knowledge, identity, and cultural memory were carried across generations. The very name Pict is widely understood to derive from a term meaning painted or marked people. The ancient accounts consistently remembered them as a visibly marked culture whose appearance distinguished them from neighbouring peoples. Whether these markings took the form of tattooing, woad staining, ceremonial body art, or a combination of practices, they formed a part of the enduring memory left behind by those who encountered them. In the modern world, tattooing is often viewed through the lens of personal expression. In the ancient world, the marked body frequently carried a much deeper significance. Across indigenous cultures throughout the world, symbols placed upon the skin expressed lineage, achievement, belonging, initiation, spirituality, protection, and relationship to land and community. The body became a living vessel through which identity could be seen, recognized, and remembered. When viewed through this lens, it becomes possible to see the body as part of the same symbolic landscape that produced the great carved stones of the Picts. Their recurring crescents, discs, spirals, beasts, rods, and geometric forms that survive in stone may also have been expressed upon the skin. Symbols carved into stone anchor meaning to place, while symbols carried upon the body allow meaning to move through the world. One stands upon the land, the other walks among the people. Together they form complementary expressions of the same cultural language. A symbol carried upon the body communicates continuously. It identifies relationship, expresses belonging, embodies memory, and makes visible the unseen threads that connect an individual to family, ancestry, place, and tradition. Through such practices, knowledge becomes something more than information. It becomes lived experience. It becomes embodied. From this perspective, tattooing emerges as something far greater than decoration. It becomes a technology of continuity, a means through which culture, memory, and identity remain present across generations. The enduring memory of the Picts as a marked people may therefore point towards a sophisticated tradition in which stone, symbol, land, craft, and body all work together within a unified system of cultural transmission. The body itself became part of the architecture through which meaning was carried forward, preserving relationship between the individual, the community, the ancestors, and the living world around them. The recurring motifs, crescents, double discs, zerods, mirrors, combs, beasts, serpents, are not random. They are consistent across regions and generations. The consistency implies shared meaning, structured transmission, and encoded knowledge. These stones functioned within larger complexes as territorial markers, genealogical records, astronomical references, initiatory keys, and energetic technologies. Stone remembers. Quartz-rich stones and silicon-bearing materials are found repeatedly in ceremonial sites, urban centres, and megalithic complexes. This is not coincidence. Across the ancient world, crystalline materials were associated with resonance, amplification, storage, and transmission. Knowledge was embedded through geometry, alignment, acoustics, light interaction, and vibrational coherence. Information was not read by the eye only. It was experienced by the body. This same principle extends into the Picts' art, tools, sacred items, jewellery and regalia. These objects were not ornamental in a modern sense. They were functional technologies. Gold was not chosen merely for beauty or status. Gold is highly conductive, non-corrosive, and uniquely responsive to electromagnetic and subtle energetic fields. When shaped through precise geometry, proportion, and symbolic patterning, it becomes an amplifier, a stabilizer, and a transmitter. Sacred geometry is not decoration. It is a language of energetic force. The spirals, knots, interlaces, ratios, and symmetries found in the Pictish and wider Celtic artifacts encode mathematical and energetic principles. These designs generate coherence, focus and tension, and create resonance between object, wearer, land, and sky. Jewellery worn on the body functioned as energetic interfaces. Tools were tuned instruments. Sacred items were calibrated devices. To produce such objects requires extraordinary skill. This was not crude metalworking. It demanded advanced knowledge of metallurgy, heat control, alloy composition, crystal inclusion, geometric precision, and symbolic mathematics. It required an understanding of how form affects force, how matter holds memory, and how intention can be stabilized through design. The craftspeople were not merely artisans, they were engineers of consciousness. The effectiveness of this technology lay in its subtlety. It did not dominate through spectacle or mass deployment. It worked through resonance, coherence, and alignment. To those outside the system, it appeared as art, myth, or superstition. To those initiated into its use, it was precise, repeatable, and powerful. This is why such technology survived as symbolism rather than instruction. Behind the Picts stand an even older inheritance, the Tuatha Dé Danann, remembered in myth as godlike beings, are more accurately understood as culture bearers of extraordinary knowledge. They are described as arriving with powerful objects, artifacts later mythologized as magical, stones that spoke, weapons that never failed, vessels that restored vitality, tools that altered reality. To the modern mind, these are legends. To the discerning one, they are technological memories preserved in symbolic language. When advanced systems are encoded through myth, ritual, craftsmanship, and oral transmission, they become indistinguishable from magic to those who no longer possess the keys. What later cultures described as supernatural may have been natural forces expertly understood and applied. The Picts were the heirs to this lineage. They also possessed social structures that threatened imperial control. They were decentralized yet sophisticated, clan-based yet organized, bonded to the land rather than abstract state power. Authority flowed through lineage, ritual legitimacy, sacred craftsmanship, and geography rather than imperial decree. Women held influence. Inheritance often followed matrilineal lines, and leadership was tied to place, ceremony, and collective coherence. Such systems are difficult to conquer because they cannot simply be dismantled from the top. Rome understood this. The Picts were not merely militarily resistant, they were ideologically incompatible with empire. And then there is the matter of ancient knowledge. The Picts were inheritors of sciences that predate Rome entirely. Megalithic engineering, geomancy, earth energy mapping, metallurgy, harmonic architecture, astronomy and ritual technologies were already ancient by the time Roman boots touched British soil. These systems worked with natural forces rather than attempting to dominate them. To an empire built on control, such knowledge is dangerous. The destruction of indigenous cultures is rarely accidental. Labelling the Picts as barbarians served a purpose. It justified conquest. It erased legitimacy. It allowed later historians writing under imperial and church authority to frame suppression as civilizing progress rather than cultural annihilation. Christianization completed what Roman legions could not. Sacred cities were dismantled or buried. Knowledge complexes were desacralized. Writing systems such as Ogham were stripped of context. Sacred technologies were reduced to art. Symbols were emptied of meaning. What could not be destroyed was ridiculed. This pattern is global. The deeper truth is uncomfortable for modern academia. If the Picts built cities that were later erased, then history is not missing, it has been edited. If their technology was advanced yet non-industrial, then modern civilization is not the inevitable peak of human development. If ancient peoples lived in abundance without empire, then empire itself is revealed as a choice, and choices can be judged. The Picts were not backwards, they were established. They were not primitive, they were precise. They were not poor. They were wealthy in land, cities, craftsmanship, knowledge, and coherence. What remains today, scattered in stone, buried beneath soil, worn as ornament without understanding, and encoded in symbol across the Scottish landscape, is not the debris of a failed culture, but the architecture of a silenced one.